Welcome to Mighty Married Moms. Join us at our kitchen table twice a week as the Mighty Married Moms, Debbie, Linda, Wendy, invite spectacular guests to weigh in on staying sexy, vibrant, and healthy, building marriages with soul-satisfying connection, raising happy, healthy, successful kids. Conversations with Mighty Married Moms will bring you closer to the life you really want. Episode 20.
Hi, welcome to Mighty Married Moms. And today we are talking about our conversation with Laura Messina, nutritionist of crossingwellness.com. And we just had a great conversation. Yes. We talked about the sad American diet. We talked about clean eating, simple steps that you can take to change your health, change your life. I don't know, what do we want to talk about first? There's so many things to talk about. I know as a nutritionist myself, I've worked a lot with Laura. I've worked with her through doctors and working in their office, helping them be able to provide wellness services for their patients as well, because we both believe in expanding our services on a broad scale. We figure a lot of people go to the doctor, and so this is a great place to find that information out.
Right. That seems kind of weird to me, that you need to go to a doctor's office to tell them how to do wellness.
It does, but you know what? Unfortunately, our health system is really a sickness system, as we like to say it. Mm-hmm. You don't really go to the doctor until you get sick, and that's kind of how we have developed our way of thinking about health. If you don't feel any symptoms, then you don't go to the doctor. When you feel a symptom, you go to the doctor. And it's not really the way it needs to be done. It really needs to be a preventative, ongoing conversation. And doctors are starting to recognize that too, because what's happening in the United States today is chronic illness is at an all-time high. And all these interventions with drug therapies hasn't been working. It's not making a dent at all in chronic illness. So what they're starting to realize is that we're just not eating the right food. In fact, we're not eating food sometimes at all. I mean,
we're putting something in our mouth, but it's not food.
It's not food, and we think it's food, but it's really not food.
Or the kids who skip breakfast or lunch.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too.
A lot of people do that, especially young people.
Absolutely.
That would be a great conversation with have Laura sometime, and you, about how to work with our kids who, like you said, walk out of the door and say, I'm not eating.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, So some strategies around that would be great. But for today, the whole wellness and eating and the food industry kind of creating ways to make us addicted to food, that was really painful for me to hear. Do you have any more on that?
Yeah, it's really sad. I think initially it actually didn't start with ill intent. I think the food industry, if you watch any of those documentaries, there's so many of them now out there, but they did it to save money. And talking about hydrogenated oils is one thing that Laura brought up as a really bad thing in our diet. Hydrogenated oils was first developed by the soap industry to make soap, and then the food industry got a hold of it and said, wow, look at it, really preserves food for a long time. Okay. And so it's really dangerous. It's not meant to be in our body. Our body doesn't know what to do with it, and it's extremely dangerous. One of the worst things you can put in your body. Your body has a hard time getting rid of it. It's but it's in a lot of food. If you look at the labels, you'll see it, and they put it under a lot of different names. So I think a lot of this is not our fault, and America, as we know, I think 7 out of 10 Americans now is considered obese.
Really?
Yeah, it's a huge number. It's
70% of Americans are obese?
Yes.
I'm in good company? But still, that's horrifying to me.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
I think that you look at people and you think, oh, they're overweight, but you don't think obese. But the body mass, that's the muscle to fat ratio in your body. More people are obese than they think, and somebody can be obese, and you're not necessarily looking at them thinking, "Oh, that person looks obese." They just look a little bit overweight. But it's really
the ratio.
Yeah, because what's happening, and I know Laura and I have talked about this a lot, and we didn't talk about it as much today, but people yo-yo diet, and so she was talking about. Let's not talk about diets. Let's talk about lifestyle, because when people diet, they tend to, like we talked about Jenny Craig. Not that it's a bad diet, it's not, but you have to buy the food, and you eat that food, and then you go back to trying to eat on your own. You don't know how to cook. You don't know what to do. You don't know anything except for buying what they have. And so it's a great plan if somebody really can't get a handle, I guess, to get them down. But what Laura was talking about is you really need to learn to change your thinking and change your lifestyle. So she's really put together a program to try to make it as simple as possible to be able to get to eat really real food, whole food, not packaged food, because it's the packaged food that's killing us. It's made to be addictive. There's high levels of sugar, salt, and hydrogenated oils and things in there that help make us addicted to this packaged, processed stuff.
Right.
I'm not going to call it food.
One of the things that I've tried to teach my kids is that when they're reading labels, and I would like to get into reading labels, but I tell them when you're reading labels, the fewer items on a label, the better the food tends to be for you. So, you pick up an apple and there's an apple and that's about it. Or if you pick up something else that is processed, it's better to have only 3 or 4 things at most that are actually in it, as opposed to all these things that you can't even pronounce.
Or food, right? Does food need to have a label? Like an apple doesn't need to have a label, right? Because it's food.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, bread. I mean, if you're going to go to the store and buy some bread,
yes.
It will have a label. It will tell you what's in it, and the fewer items in the bread, the better.
Absolutely. If there's a bunch of ingredients that you can't read, I'd stay away from it.
Yeah.
You don't understand what they are.
And of course, with shopping, you hear about shopping around the edges of the grocery store, because that's where all of the real food is, right? Mm-hmm. The fruits and the vegetables and the protein and the dairy products and stuff like that. So those are the places.
And the inside of the it's not such a good place to go.
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm a cereal lover. I love cereal, and I've tried to cut back on how much cereal I have, but it's not an easy thing when you just love it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true.
But you throw blueberries on yours. I've been at your house.
You throw blueberries
on it so that you balance it out.
One good thing to do with cereal, and a lot of people do like cereal, and we really have, I grew up eating cereal for breakfast, and as Laura said, everyone thinks of breakfast.
You have to have cereal.
You really do think of it. It's a very common thing. But I think there's a couple things you can do. Certainly a whole grain cereal, which I'm sure you do.
Right.
Replacing milk with coconut milk so you have a nice high fat on there is a great thing. When I make my oatmeal,
I love this recipe.
I only use steel cut, number one, because it's the most whole grain. But the thing about oatmeal is that you need to soak it overnight because you need to get rid of the phytic acid, because grains have phytic acid on them.
Have what kind of acid?
Phytic acid.
How do you spell that?
PHI.
Oh, phytic acid.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it. Okay.
It's a protective coating to protect them in nature. But what it does inside our bodies is it makes it very hard to digest.
Okay.
So that's why you kind of feel that lumpy, loady. If you've ever eaten oatmeal, right? You feel kind of like,
I love oatmeal.
I love oatmeal too. I love oatmeal. But when you soak it overnight, you'll notice a difference. You don't feel that load. And also, you need to have fat with grains. Fat helps you digest grains. So when I have my oatmeal, I make my fairly large bowl of oatmeal. I put like almost 3 tablespoons of grass-fed organic butter.
Oh.
And I put a little teaspoon of coconut oil in there and a little bit of maple syrup. Wow.
Oh,
a little
it
bit
sounds
of coconut
great.
milk. Oh, it is to die for.
Okay, so next week when we have our conversation in the morning,
we'll have our
oatmeal.
There you
go.
Ooh, I'm up for that. So can I just ask you about that? The soaking the oatmeal overnight. What do you mean by that? So you have this steel cut oats, like a cup of them? Because I don't.
Well, however much you want, whatever you're going to eat.
Soak it in hot water. Soak it in
warm water.
Warm water. And leave it on the counter. Put it in the fridge.
I leave it on the counter. I put a little bit of lemon.
Is there
a little bit of lemon.
Water to oatmeal.
Yeah, depending on. It always tells you on the box. So I put the right amount. Whatever.
Okay, so if you're going to cook it, you do whatever it says on the box in terms of water to oatmeal mix, and if it's steel cut oats. Okay, so I got that. And warm water, just put it on the counter, and you put lemon juice in it.
Put a little lemon, or I put a little. That helps evidently get rid of the phytic acid.
Yeah. Okay. And so you leave it on the counter, and then in the morning you get up. Is it filled up? Is it like no more water is visible because it's
No, but it's a little bit. It's a little bit mushier, I think. It's a little bit bigger. So what I do,
and then you
I don't even know if you need to do this or not, but I just do it anyway. I dump out the excess water because it's all murky looking.
Okay.
It's all murky. So I dump out as much of that water as I can, and I measure it because I've put the right amount of water to make my oatmeal, and I replace that water with fresh water. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then you cook it.
Then I cook it.
Normally. Mm-hmm. And then you add your butter, your teaspoon of coconut oil, and your maple syrup, and you're happy as a...
Yep, and a little coconut milk. I usually do a little milk because it's hot, So
I like that.
It's delicious.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Really,
it's really amazing.
My mouth is watering.
Yeah.
You know what? Instead of butter, my sister uses ghee. So I guess you could use that also.
That too.
Okay. What's ghee?
I don't even remember. You know,
it comes
Linda?
from...
Is it clarified butter? Something where you take the
Yeah.
butter and you take off...
Some
you
process
melt
you
it
do with the
and
butter.
You take off the top. We'll have to look it up. It's Ghee.
Yep.
Ghee.
Yep.
So I have heard that, but I just couldn't remember what it was. But okay, so but the grass-fed butter. Why is that grass-fed organic butter? What do you mean? What are you talking?
Because cows are supposed to eat green grass, and they are not supposed to be grain-fed. So if you
Really?
are not buying grass-fed cow products,
dairy
milk,
and beef
dairy
and-
and beef and butter, you are eating grain. So
And
we
that goes
think,
back to
I'm-
that pyramid that we were just talking
Exactly.
about.
Oh, I'm eating more. So sometimes, right, people can't lose weight. They're thinking, oh, I'm eating meat and vegetables. I'm doing paleo. I'm doing that. But they're eating grain. If you're eating animals that have been fed grain, you're basically eating grain. Still eating grain. So we have a lot of grain in our diet. We don't even know it. Chickens, too. They feed them. Chickens are actually carnivores. They're supposed to eat bugs. That's why they're supposed to be outside. They're not supposed to be cooped up in a pen.
So that's why organic chicken is better than regular chicken.
Absolutely.
Oh boy, I'm just learning tons of information today. Okay, this is great.
Yeah.
And the grass-fed piece is really, really important because it's sort of, the light's dawning here because what I'm hearing you say is that just as human beings are eating things that are not processed correctly or overly processed, and all this stuff, this gluten is sitting there, we can't process it, all these different things we can't process, we were never meant to eat soap, for instance. And then you take cows.
Unless you're bad. Say bad things.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That gets into discipline. We'll talk about that another time.
That's never happened to me. My mother never made me eat soap. I'm proud to say. But the other thing is that cows, when you leave them on their own, they want to go eat what they like to eat or they should be eating, which is grass. They don't walk over to the wheat stalks and nibble on grain.
Right.
So when we need to look at the labels that says grass-fed beef or grass-fed butter or grass-fed milk products, we're going to be having things that are more consistently, as opposed to fighting what we have in our bodies, and then there's a whole group of people who talk about we shouldn't be having any animal-based foods in our own system, but that's another conversation.
Right.
It's broader. But it's just clicking with me what you're saying about the grass-fed. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, as far as not supposed to have animal products in your diet at all, I don't believe in that personally as a nutritionist. I'm all about bio-individuality. I think that our bodies are all different. So I never prescribe one diet for everybody.
Okay.
I think there are basic principles, which is what Laura was talking about, that she and I both agree on fully. There are basic principles that everybody can follow. But there's not one, you should only be vegetarian, you should only be vegan, or you should only be paleo. There's a lot of great diets out there. And when you learn them all, everyone I'm telling you sounds like, oh, I should do that. Oh, I should do that. Oh, I should do that, because you learn the benefits of everything. Just like I don't think everyone shouldn't eat grain. I mean, there are people who follow paleo who swear grain is bad no matter what, but it's not. It's very, very healthy. You just have to know how to do it right.
Yeah.
And you have to know how much gluten sensitivity you have. And really, I think about 95% of the population really does have leaky gut, which is sort of the precursor to more intestinal problems all the way to Crohn's disease.
What is leaky gut?
Leaky gut is basically when you don't have enough fiber in your diet, and Laura talked about having 10 grams of fiber per meal, as opposed to most Americans eat less than 10 grams per day. So what happens is that your intestines need the fiber to be able to have the peristaltic action to move things through your system.
Okay. Yep.
If you don't have enough fiber and you're eating sticky, glutinous foods, it slows down, and it allows for pockets to kind of open up, and there's damage done, and so the toxins in your food can leak into your system, into your bloodstream.
Linda, tell us a little bit about some of the fiber substitutes, something like Metamucil or something like that, because I have at least one family member who swears by this because a doctor told him at one point you should be making sure you have enough fiber, so drink this stuff every day. And so he drinks this stuff every day. I mean, is that sufficient, or
it is not?
It is not.
It is absolutely not. And Metamucil dehydrates you.
Okay.
It pulls.
I don't think it's
fluid out of
Metamucil. I
you.
think it's something like that, though. It's in a white container with an orange or a blue top, and I don't remember what it's called, but it's supposed to put
Or
fiber.
psyllium, Psyllium.
Yeah.
That's kind of what's in Metamucil, I think. So it could be any brand name, but
Yeah.
any sort of
fiber that dissolves in a glass of water, you would say is not a...
Not any fiber. I just think you can't depend on it as your only fiber. And Metamucil, I know, also drains you. That's part of what it does. It takes all the water out of your body to push things through your intestine, rather than fiber, which really is kind of, in a way, scrubbing as it goes through, because it's fibrous.
So to get fiber, I know you eat things like apples and carrots and vegetables, and that's the best way to get fiber for your diet, right?
And that's absolutely the best way to get fiber. But I'm not opposed to it. I think putting fiber into, like, if you're really on the run and you need to have some kind of a shake. I think putting fiber in a smoothie or,
like Metamucil in a smoothie?
I wouldn't put Metamucil. I would never use Metamucil. I would use something, I think...
like an apple? Is that what you mean?
No, I don't mean an apple. There are great fiber substitutes that are healthy, that are complex fibers. You can get vegetarian ones. You can get, shakes that have whey protein in them. Whey protein is the healthy part of the milk protein, rather than the casein, which you don't want. So whey protein is a great way to add protein, and a lot of the shakes that you see out there, the fiber shakes, have whey protein is also included in there. So, and I've seen some great ones where there's they made pea protein and different kinds of protein, or they have a complex.
So a vegetable-based protein powder usually has fiber in it.
Yes.
So that's where you sit. So if
because it's made from real food.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's made from real food.
So if we looked at that protein can, pea powder or another vegetable-based or whey protein, and you wanted to see if you're making a shake, you'd like it to say 10 grams of that fiber, you'd be like golden. So my breakfast...
And I would look for, as Debbie was saying earlier, I would look for the ingredients to say peas, broccoli, whatever. It would say whole foods.
Okay.
It wouldn't be a bunch of chemical things, like
maltodextrose
or
something. Or,
like
polysyllabic weirdness.
My youngest son has always been both of my boys are very thin. It's just their body makeup. But my youngest one was on the very bottom of the scale growing up. He was always tiptoeing on just being enough for his age. And the pediatrician, she's a wonderful pediatrician. She's super smart and she knows a lot. But she would say, you should give him Ensure, different things like that. And I looked at the label, and it's all chemicals. Like, there's nothing in there that says food. Nothing. And I said, I can't do that. I can't give my son,
made up stuff.
This made up stuff. I can't put junk in his body just to put a little weight on him. So it's. But I think that's advice that's being given a lot. And which is with lack of knowledge about nutrition, because doctors aren't taught about nutrition. I know. I've worked with a ton of them from all different modalities, and none of them have ever learned it. It was not part of their education, which is just astounding.
That goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is that we are a reactive medical society as opposed to a proactive medical society.
Well said.
And so we teach our doctors to react to the illness, because that's what we need. In a moment of crisis, we need somebody who knows what the heck to do in order to solve a problem. And yet it seems like we need more people like Linda and Laura who are in a proactive situation where they're going to teach us how to prevent ourselves from getting sick in the first place.
Right.
So that's why somebody should go see a health coach in order to learn how to do nutrition and exercise properly.
Absolutely. And I think that one thing that Laura mentioned, I think that's really true, and I'm sure you probably experience this as a parent coach as well, is the accountability is there's just no substitute for it. When you're accountable to somebody and you're reporting in, weekly, whatever it is, to somebody talking about what you've been doing, you're going to do it. But if you don't have to, if you're not meeting with somebody, a coach of some kind, you can go, well,
I'll slide,
and then the more you slide, the more you just kind of get off track. It's like exercise too, right? You skip a week and you go, oh, that was really easy to skip a week. And skip a little bit more. It's harder and harder. And as we know, as mature women,
mighty married mature moms.
Oh, yeah, there you go. It gets harder as you get older,
yeah,
and I think aging is not for sissies. Aging takes a lot of work, and being healthy takes work. It just does.
It does.
You know, you got to
does.
think about it, but it's not hard work. It's doable, and you feel so good when you do it.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so many points where we have to come in on health, and there's certainly the spiritual, mental aspect of it as well.
Yes, mindset.
Mindset. We need to do a whole segment on mindset,
Or
and
two,
health,
or three.
Yeah. We'll definitely do
Different
that.
applications of mindset. Maybe
Yeah.
we could do a mindset on health, a mindset on parenting,
Oh, yeah.
and a mindset on relationships. You know,
Yeah.
it's really, really key. Doctor, I don't know if we've interviewed somebody that talked about how our minds really do drive so much of our behavior, obviously, but it also feeds into our self-esteem and how our body works well. And we have to really program our minds in ways to do things that are life-giving rather than life-draining. And yeah, so Dr. Kim Darmo. I don't know if this is
Duramo.
Duramo.
Kim
I don't know if
Duramo,
it's
yeah.
before or after this episode, but
yeah.
nonetheless, tune in to Dr. Kim. She was
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
for that mind-body connection.
Yeah. You know, I just want to highlight before we go, and you can talk a little bit about this, Linda, is the three things that Laura talked about, and that were the knowledge, application, and accountability, which you just started to touch on. So those are the three takeaways, I think, that were Laura was hoping people would come away with. So if you want to talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, you know, certainly I think that we just don't know. We don't know what we're supposed to eat. We don't know that a lot of the packaged stuff isn't really food that we're eating. We just sort of, you know, we I think still have this idea that we can trust the food industry. We can trust what's put out there, that companies are putting good food out there, and what they say on the label is true and accurate. And it's not always, or it's misleading at best. We'll just say at best it's misleading. So knowing that, and knowing knowledge is power, right? Knowledge is power, and once you start to know that, it's in your consciousness. And when it's in your consciousness, it makes it harder to make the wrong choices, because now you're aware. And then applying it and just trying it. And I know I run a 2-week clean eating program. I'll be doing one in the spring. Laura does as well. And you know, it's really an amazing jump start, really, just to take away all that stuff for a little while and just put in whole foods into your body. And people really, I feel so much energy.
Yep,
I can't believe how sharp I am. My hair looks shiny. My skin looks amazing.
People always, you talk about that, and that happened to me too, my hair. I was like, what is going on? It's just so much more shiny, and
it's incredible.
And it's just like, what have I been doing? Nothing much, except I'm not eating what I was eating last week. It's really something.
Yeah.
And it's so immediate. So you've got to say, oh boy, something's going on.
Yeah, that's right, because you just recently did Linda's program, right?
Yeah. So something's going on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So, Wendy, how are you able to continue now that you started that initial clean eating?
Yes, but I am much more conscious every time I do a cleanse with Linda that how I can build in better choices all along the way and all along the path. But I got to say, when Laura came on, one of the first things out of her mouth was people who are overweight. I forget exactly what she said, but she says they really like salty and crunchy. And I was like, is she spying on me with my bag of potato chips or my bag of rice crackers?
It's true.
It's crunch and salt, crunch and salt, crunch and salt. So yes, to answer your question, I'm more conscious and I make better choices overall. But do I slide into, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I've got to do this.
Just going to eat what's quick and easy.
I just got to eat what's quick and easy. So those chips, a little bit of vegetable salsa, I'm so good, and I'll do that. I was thinking about that this morning. What did I have for dinner last night?
Chips and
I'm just telling you the truth. Not proud of it, but I said I didn't have any protein, and I fell asleep on my couch with drool on my pillow. I mean, it's embarrassing, but there you have it. That's the honest to goodness truth. And so yes, I'm more conscious and I make better choices overall. But then there are times when I'm exhausted, tired, overworked, and that's, I think, one of the major reasons we're doing all this.
Sure.
One of the major reasons we're doing all this is the three of us are no different from anybody else that's watching this.
Right.
We all are stressed. We all live in this culture of do, pressure. And so how do we rise to the level of living the life we've always wanted? I didn't want to grow up being 75 pounds overweight. I didn't want to grow up being mad at the guy that I'm married to. I didn't want to grow up being a cranky mother who also slammed the doors on my teenage children. I want to be a different person. I want to operate well, and I want to feel good at night when I go to bed, not like another crappy day at the office. So that's why we're doing this.
That's right. We want to bring the best information we can.
Yeah.
And we're so excited about all these interviews and everything.
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting.
We have been, and I've
learned
taken
so much.
I've taken stuff home, and I've tried it out on my
Absolutely.
husband, and he's like, "Wow, what's different?" So we sure hope that you're learning stuff. Okay, before we go, I just have to ask you. So one of the things I realized last year, probably due to stress or I don't know, probably a whole bunch of mindset issues, was I was eating too much chocolate. So I stopped buying chocolate. I stopped buying chocolate. Now, I have not taken chocolate out of my diet completely because I don't, but I it's a special occasion when I go out and buy it, as opposed to having it constantly available in my house. And yet I still find every single day, here it is 4 or 5 months later, every day in the afternoon, I am looking for chocolate. I still crave it. How do I stop that?
How do you stop that craving? I don't know. I haven't stopped that craving myself.
Okay.
Although I have gradually built to darker and darker and darker. I'm now up to 88%.
Like the milk chocolate.
Yeah, it's the sugar thing. Yeah, milk chocolate is really sugary, and it also has milk in it. It's got all the bad stuff. But I found for myself that as I sort of increased a little bit in the dark, go from
went to the dark
go
side.
to 55% next. 55%, you kind of get used to it. And you go, you know what? This is pretty good. Now I used to never be able to eat 85%. I thought it tasted like bark or something, really bad. But I gradually went from 55% or 56%, I think they usually have, up to 72%, and I got used to 72%, and I thought, well, that was pretty good. Now I'm up to 88% because that is in the low glycemic category, as Laura was talking about.
Okay.
There's high glycemic foods, there's low glycemic foods, and I actually have quite a few lists of switching from here's your choice that you're making, try to switch over to this would be your low glycemic choice as opposed to your...
So I've actually heard, and maybe we could get a chocolate expert on here, but
sometimes maybe a little fruit and a little chocolate, I think that helps me sometimes too. They get a little bit of sugar, and then you eat a little bit darker chocolate.
Chocolate-covered
and you're going
berries
to
or
find,
something.
if you keep doing that, you're going to I can't even stand milk chocolate now.
Well, that's
It's
kind of like
sugar to
that's
me,
like when our family years ago, I decided we were going to move from whole milk to skim milk, and I did it progressively. And now I'm at a point where when I drink whole milk, it tastes like cream.
Yeah, I hate to tell you this.
What?
Whole milk's healthier.
that's another show.
All right, another show. We're going to have to dive into that. Yeah.
That's not what we've been
Stay
taught.
tuned. She was thinking she was so good.
Well, that's what we were taught. We were all taught that, and we all did it.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you now, whole milk is healthier.
Okay.
Go for the whole milk.
I'm going to go find it out on your website. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That's good.
All right, so we hope, again, listeners, please comment on iTunes. Please tell us what you thought about today's episode. Any questions that you have, we will absolutely get to any questions that you have. We'll answer them in another episode. We would love to do that. Go to our website, www.mightymarriedmoms.com. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Mighty Married Moms. Tune in twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays to meet fascinating and inspiring guests who will help you create the life you've always wanted.
You can find these episodes and special gifts just for you at mightymarriedmoms.com, as well as a link to our Facebook community,
where we continue the conversation around the kitchen table. Please also help share the love by leaving a review on iTunes. We'll see you next time.